Don't be afraid to fail. You just don't know what you don't know.
Focus on what you actually want.
And we have to start thinking that we can do things differently.
Man, it was hard to say no when you don't really have to.
Because again, you can change your mindset, but you still need accountability.
Delegate, 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 delegate.
What works for 5 or 10 is not going to work for 50 or 100. We don't make the same mistakes twice. If you want to grow, you've got to invest in solid technology.
I'm David Denning, one of the founders of Jumpstart Go that runs this market for insurance agents group. Create this group as a free resource for you guys to have discussions, chat, share knowledge, find referral partners, and we do weekly trainings in here. And then I would love, Joe, David, if you guys can give us the rundown, the intro of your lives for Redwood. Take it away.
Hey, my name is David Campert. I am the proud owner of the Redwood Agency Group. We launched in April of 2018 and been in the industry almost 20 years. So literally started with State Farm right out of college, 1992. A proven paper apps. I was an underwriter, so that's really where I kind of cut my teeth in insurance. Was back at State Farm, and was with them for about 10 years, and actually became a State Farm agent for a year when Joe was 7 years old. So many years, almost 20.
I'm not
over 20.
7 now. Just
now
FYI,
he's like 10.
I'm
he's
like
10
the
now.
babyface killer. But yeah, right. The neck beard.
Yeah, like over 20 years ago, did that, and. But man, I tell you, it was just super stressful. So ended up leaving the industry for 11 years, and then came back to Allstate and was blessed enough to be able to lead agents. That's how we got to St. Louis, Maggie. We were in St. Louis leading Allstate agents with independent contracts. And so I had Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, driving all over the place. But what it really enabled us to do was to see some really great insurance operations. And I think one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is really best practices. And that's what I think groups like this, when you can meet people and learn from others who have done it before you, that is, I think, one of the keys to really scaling quickly is, really learning from those who've already done it. And so having that opportunity to see some amazing operations really kind of planted the seeds. As really, I started to think that, and then Joe really kind of started to have the same thing. And man, we'd really love to do something together instead of helping everyone else. Hey, let's help ourselves. Let's learn from what we're doing, and then hey, we can share that with others. And so, hey, that's what's got us to where we are today. So super happy to be on the call tonight. But yeah, we're excited.
Absolutely.
Love it. The original David from State Farm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
He started that trademark.
Yeah. Same difference, right? Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that because, why Pops left was because of the timing. And I say this to everybody is it's not that it's the wrong idea. It just might be the wrong time. Timing's everything, right? And so, when Pops first started, y'all, there wasn't even internet, right? Like, I mean, literally his leads were a phone book. Right. And so, yeah, you think you're stressed now. Think about if your only leads are like you're dialing from A to Z. Right. And so, but the whole reason he left insurance is because of how much time he had to spend away from the family. Well, in turn, I'm like, well, I always wanted to be like my dad. So I was like, I've been wanting to be in insurance since I was in second grade. So fast forward, had the paper route. If anybody's seen us or seen me on a call before, had the paper route, mowed yards, ran the farmer's market, selling pulled pork and lemon shake-ups and construction and you name it, and kind of went through the motions. And I think a lot of us were, especially anybody that maybe is in my age range, not dating Pops at all. You guys heard the dates though, okay? He might look like he's my age, but he's back from the 90s when he first started.
Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. That's my older brother. But for me, it was, hey, this is what you do, right? Like you go to school, you go and then you go to college, you get your good degree, you get a good job, and really, once Pops kind of got back into insurance, I had the opportunity to go get an internship. And that's, hey, I need an internship in order to get into this business scholars program. I was in between my sophomore and junior year of college. And I went, did the internship, always wanted to be in insurance, but kind of, just, well, hey, shoot, like I've never really thought of it being a full-time job quite yet. And I was offered a full-time opportunity instead of going back to school. So I ended up pursuing insurance full-time at 19 years old, and started in customer service, right? Well, one was an intern an intern, I got to say this, an intern was different than customer service as well. Then I got bumped up to customer service, and then customer service to
Got
commercial
promoted.
specialist, then commercial specialist to then kind of managing an office, then really, you know, having an opportunity to go manage a very high level, high caliber agency. And that was my first, oh, wow, like you can make a lot of money in insurance, right? And I say that to say, and maybe that's why the 1.2 might have felt a little like we've been working years for this, right? So anybody that's hearing this, please hear that this did not happen overnight, and it took us literally 4 years to get to. So just know it's, you know, the grass is greener, and it took a lot of work. And then it was, hey, I only have one option. And I preach to my captive experience. I think they did an amazing job. And anybody that's watching this as a captive, you're still sitting in a good opportunity. There's just different opportunities out there, we'll say. And I don't regret my upbringing, but I definitely don't regret making that switch to doing something, starting a family business, to where now, I mean, the opportunity is endless. It really is. Insurance is, I mean, it is the best vehicle, in my opinion, to get you where you want to go. Financially, time freedom. I mean, you name it. Shoot, you don't even have to sell insurance to make money in insurance. It's crazy. But that's kind of our 30,000 foot overview where, hey, I started as an intern. And it took years. You know, I'm coming up on year 9. I'm 28 years old, but I am blessed. I am fortunate. And none of it, again, is possible without people, right? And that's why we give it back. That's why we want to help agents get to where we could potentially, or where we're at now, and get them there a little bit faster. Not have to do everything we had to fail through, we'll call it, right? But
learn from others, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So what were the biggest challenges you were facing when you were getting started?
Man, I honestly, I think the very first thing is literally just, we didn't know what we didn't know. You know, I think that was probably the biggest challenge. Anybody that's new to this industry, you just don't know what you don't know, you know, and so there's so much information to be figured out because you're dealing with so many different carriers. And I think that was the hard thing. It took so much time just to figure one thing out because we didn't know where to go. We didn't know who to ask. We didn't know what number to call. And so we're literally looking for answers all the time. And I think that was honestly, I think, one of the most difficult things. And so we're now, something might take us 5 minutes, you know, back then it was like 30 minutes or maybe even an hour if we're waiting on someone to call us back because we have to call somebody to try to figure that out. And so I think early on, you know, just that knowledge gap that you have when you're coming over into something new was a really big thing for us. It really weighted us down for sure.
I'll say for me, so if anybody knows me, if you've seen anything, Pops talks about it too, is, hey, I'm go, 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 go. Right. So think about, I'm coming from having one carrier to now dude, if it can be insured, I can insure it. Oh, I'm your guy. And that was, you know, I'll leave this especially for any new agents that are coming over to the independent side. Just because you can does not mean that you should, right? So that was a big challenge for me, because anybody knows my heart as well. I want to help, man. Especially when I can help and make money, it makes it that much better. But for me, I have a heart for the people, and so I wanted to help anybody that I could. And I had a very hard time saying no. Even to the point of where I knew I should, but man, I'm going to bend over backwards. I know it's going to be because I have to go through anybody that's in the PNC space. It's a Nerf gun arena. Well, it's like, shoot, that's obviously not going to fit with a standard admitted market. So I've got to go to the ENS broker. And then that ENS broker has a brokerage department, which then and anybody that now knows that keeps your commission keeps going a little bit lower, right? And it took me a month and a half to write this Nerf gun arena. He's still with us to this day because I vowed that, hey, you know what, we're going to stick by it, but it's manual renewals. It took me a month and a half and 30 pages of accords and supplementals and all this stuff, right? And it was $1,200 a year, and I made a 9% comp on it. And I was just like, dang, okay. And that, I would really say that just because the options are there, focus on what you actually want. That was a huge learning curve for us, is that, hey, we don't need to have, and we'll probably get into this a little bit further, but a lot of our model, right, is, hey, I don't want to have to insure everything in Texas. I just want to have the best carriers in all the states. So instead of fishing in the what I call the pond of Texas, we open it up to the ocean of the country, is what I say. So we get to be a little bit more selective. But that took, I mean, Pops, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that took probably 2 years. I mean, I figured it out, but it's still to really wean it out, to get those people off the books that you probably, like, they're service heavy, right, or whatever it is. And when you increase your opportunity, not necessarily your carriers in one state, that was a big thing for us. But again, it was hard to say no when you don't really have to. You should, but you don't really have to, right?
I think in part of that is because I think one of the other big struggles, which again, if you're new, is just money. It's making payroll. I mean, when I think back to how, I mean, we were literally down to the wire every single month, like just the timing of stuff, of how we were going to be able to make payroll. And, every month we barely made it. We barely made it. And then I would say one of the other things that I think was, we didn't learn this till later on, but I wish I would have started earlier, was once we actually had a little bit of cushion, I just wanted to hold everything so tightly. And one of the things we'll probably talk about a little bit is just investing in your business, investing in yourself. And I did not want it, because you have that, it's almost like coming through the Great Depression, you want to save every nickel you can. And so when you start a business from scratch, where literally you're barely making it every single month, and then you start having to think about writing even a $500 check or $1,000 check or $5,000 check to invest in your business, everything feels like an expense. Everything feels like it's going right out the door. And we waited on a lot of things to really jump into some things and to learn some things that we could have learned those much earlier.
Yes.
But that mentality that I had, that almost poverty mentality, to be quite honest with you, that, just going through that and not really being able to release that, I think was a challenge for us as well.
So true. That abundance mentality, that because and we'll talk about this in a second, because I know that's probably some of the things, but that investing in things for that growth and reinvesting in the business and all that sort, I know has had such a huge impact for you guys. And so what have been the biggest needle movers for you guys?
Bagels, biggest.
Bagel,
Went and had this bagel.
Energy to get going in the morning. I don't know what you're talking about. So.
Go ahead, Joe. What would you say? I'll let you lead this one off.
So the biggest, really, and this is, there's a couple. The biggest one for me was really, the biggest one. I think the Facebook, if we're really backtracking, right, I think there's multiples, but the biggest one was Facebook. Really figuring out how to maneuver, to really drive, we come from, so this is, we haven't even talked about it, but that was probably a struggle. Like Pops talked about the money, we didn't have any money to buy leads or to really, and we were starting a new company and we didn't know what we were doing. So we didn't want to even touch our warm market, because we didn't want to basically write business in our backyard that we didn't know what we were writing. Right. And so we were trying to really figure it out, and we were cold calling. And we did the 1, 2, 3. If anybody taking notes, this is actually really good for y'all. Even if you don't want to outbound, it's a pretty good outbound practice, but it was the 1, 2, 3. So we did 100 calls a day, 2 hours talk time, 3 policies sold, and 2 out of the 3 had to be done each day. Right. And that's literally downloading list from Sales Genie, from Data Man Group. We did, whatever list we could get our hands on, we just send it through the DNC, through that scrub tool, make sure they're not on the do not call list, and then just pound the phones to where when Facebook really started to work, and I'd say this is a huge piece of our model right now, if not it's probably one of the biggest pieces of our model and how we've been able to scale as fast as we have. It was those non-resident states. And David, I know we've talked about this before. David Denning. Yeah, maybe that's why we call Pops. So then we're not thinking that we're talking. Yeah, that would be weird if I called my dad David too. But it was those non-resident states, and that's where Facebook really picked up for me, is that I could pick up any Facebook referral from any state because I was licensed there. And then once people found out that Joe does a good job, Joe follows up, they service the policies, they're getting good reviews from the people that were referred to us. Then you just gain all these referral shout out to Laura Story. Obviously, so here's the crazy part. Me and Laura have been referral partners for like 5 years. I just met her for the first time, like in 2021 at the end of the year. Like, it's crazy, but I feel like I knew her and all this. And that to me was a huge pivot point, a huge turning point in the business where, dang, like you can actually create relationships on social media. And now a lot of what I obviously do is Facebook specific, but it's the same across the board, where you find people like an Olivia Appleberry that's killing it on freaking TikTok, or you find like a Brandon Thomas who is killing it on Twitter. Like, you can find your platform. But once I figured that out, oh my gosh. And good thing I wasn't married back then, because I mean, my full-time job was responding to, and they're like, how do you comment this fast? How do you respond this fast? And it's like, because it's a free lead and it's a referral. Not only is it a referral, it's a referral from an agent who already has the deck pages, who already has, hey, they've been my client and they're moving here, and I told them you need to work with Joe. So they're not shopping, they're not going to 1-800, they're not going to websites, they're working with Joe because said referral partner said to work with Joe. So I would have to say, and now I think Pops will talk on kind of the next piece of that, but the Facebook piece, when I figured out that it worked, that's what really, I think, unlocked the next bit that Pops will really kind of enlighten on.
Yeah, but I think the second thing was once Joe had that exposure from Facebook and really was kind of starting to kind of break into the things, then it was, and again, we've talked about this a lot, but it was Cody Askins. I mean, it was an invite to a small event that got around people that had a much different mindset than what we had. And, you know, we'd been in it for probably almost 2 years. We're in just, again, the grind of that, and not really seeing $1 million months, not even seeing $200,000 months. And you're just, you keep going, and it's like you can't ever really seem to get over that hill. And so for me personally, I mean, I was at a pretty low point, you know, and just really, did I really have what it was going to take to get us to where we needed to get to? You know, was I really the person that was going to be able to do that? Or even just thinking, well, maybe we just need to, now let's quit trying to do all this other stuff. Let's just, you know, let's just keep it small, and we'll just, you know. And then we got in that room with a lot of those other guys, and it completely changed my mindset. And to where I'm like, okay, we got to do things differently here, you know, and we have to start thinking that we can do things differently. And I think that's where it all started. You know, Coach Michael Bird says you got to go there in the mind before you go there in the body, you know, and it's so true. I mean, it really starts with, you know, really that mindset of belief. And I had so many limiting beliefs about, you know, really what I thought we could do. And doing that, and then writing a big check to Cody Askins to say, hey, you've started something here in this group, but let's go to some coaching, you know, and let's actually really kind of drill down into our business. Let's really start looking at some things. And so, you know, we started really investing from that point forward, you know, where we had some dollars, like, okay, let's really try to invest in this, and let's really kind of make this happen. And those relationships, you know, we still, again, we've got all of those to this day, but they were huge for us in really helping us get to that next point.
Yep.
And the next one really was, so once we again had that mindset shift, Cody is coaching us, now we're doing things, and the next piece, you got to have accountability.
Right.
Because you can have somebody telling you what to do, but as an independent agency, on the captive side, you have an agency manager. They're your built-in accountability. So even if you're on an island, you've still got an agency manager that's holding your foot to the fire, saying you've got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And then we got a call from this little group, and they said, hey, there's like 5 or 6 other people, and we want to get together, and we want to try this thing out for 6 weeks. And would you be willing to be a part of this group? And we'll do some accountability, and we're going to send you this thing, you know, this little bell thing, whatever. And we want to celebrate you and hold you accountable. And that was Closers Click. And it was, the timing of that was exactly when we needed it. Because again, you can change your mindset, but you still need accountability. Right. You still got to have people that are holding you accountable to do because you still have to execute. It's one thing to think you can, but unless you execute on all the things you think you can do, it means nothing, you know? And so for us, that's what Closers Click was. I think it really kind of pushed us out there where, again, Joe had kind of been doing some Facebook things, but then you've got, Sandra and Victor and all you guys coming in there and coaching. And so now we're getting really targeted with what we're doing in Facebook. And we can actually put words to the strategies that Joe kind of figured out, but now we can actually use them so we can help other people in our agency, kind of do that stuff. So again, the Closers Click was huge for us. Positive accountability to celebrate the wins, because we definitely need to do that. But at the same time, all right, hey Pops, you said you were going to go live this week. Did you actually get on Facebook and do that? Did you do your 5x5x5? Who's your new people? Who's your stuff? So those were huge for us, and really set us, I think, on a course for success. And now we're seeing the results of that. Having done those things.
Yep.
Love it. Expanded vision, accountability, and making that commitment for that you're going to grow and not just stay where you guys are at and comfortable, and that big push on what they can do for growing their business, and also what you wish you would have known when you were getting started. So I know you mentioned a few things, but what's some of the biggest things that you haven't shared yet, or that you would like to share or tell those, as far as that you would have wished you'd known and that are going to be really key impacts for them growing their business?
What you got, Joe? You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You go. You got it.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, for me, because again, our roles are very different in the agency. So when I think about growing the agency, I think about supporting that growth. So the first thing I would say is you need to be able to support it. It's one thing to grow and then give it all away, because you don't have the necessary infrastructure or support in there to be able to do that. So I think it's critical when you think about that growth, you have to think about systems. We went cheap early on to try to kind of cut corners with our technology. You cannot do that. If you want to grow, you've got to invest in solid technology. So number one is, do your homework. Talk to a lot of agencies who are using the stuff that you're using. Find out, what they're doing with it, and then, how are they utilizing that tool? Because again, what works for 5 or 10 is not going to work for 50 or 100. It will not happen. And you need technology to be able to do that. So I think you've got to invest in technology. Don't scrimp on that stuff. Now, again, not to say that everything has to be super expensive, because there are some good affordable programs out there, but you need to be doing the research to be able to get that. One of the biggest mistakes, again, we've made is changing systems, and it's a nightmare to try to do that, because we got into something, maybe we didn't necessarily do our due diligence. We kind of rushed it, I think, maybe in some cases. You start to feel the pain of something, and so you're trying to move on from it too quickly. We should have done a little bit more homework to be able to, to get with where we're going. The other thing too is don't be afraid to fail. For me, if you're not growing, you're not failing. To grow, you have to fail. That means you're learning, and not necessarily. And we always want to say we're failing, we're failures. But to me, failure. And we talked about this. We had an agency in-house, and there was an expression that I took away from this that I think is really critical to growth, and it's let your losses become your lessons. Your losses need to become your lessons. And so again, for a lot of times, man, my losses, I really let those define who I was, that I was a failure. Not that I failed, but that I was. And so you're gonna mess stuff up, and we've messed plenty of things up. Why? Because Joe's going 100 miles an hour, and that's awesome. But at first, I was always trying to hold him back. I was trying to make sure that you're never going to grow if you're waiting for that perfect moment, for that perfect thing, for that perfect person. It's never going to happen. It's never going to come. And you're just going to sit there spinning your wheels or literally doing nothing. Sometimes you got to go and just go and expect it's not going to be perfect. You're going to mess stuff up. Guys, we wrote 1.2 million last month, but we are not perfect. We still have problems. We still have issues. Ask anybody that's a part of us. It's still true. So, but that's a good thing. If you're not breaking systems, if you're not breaking processes, you're not scaling. You're not growing, because if you can do what if you're not breaking anything, you're not stressing, you're not pushing the limits, you're not doing anything like that. So for us, it was really changing that mindset and being okay to fail and saying, all right, Joe, yep, let's go ahead and try that. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh man, and then you just learn from it. You know what?
Yep.
You got to learn from it and you got to bounce back. Okay, so we don't make the same mistakes twice. We may make them once, but we work really hard not to make them twice. And so, again, I think that's been critical to our success. We're not afraid to fail at something. We're not afraid to do it wrong the first time, because I guarantee you we're going to keep figuring out and we're going to get it right. And then once we get it right, then look out.
Yep.
I think that's one of the biggest mindsets with agents, or that as we talk more and more, especially newer agents that are getting into this business, is that fear of failure instead of realizing failure is your fastest path to success. So if you fail, you learn, you get better. You fail again, you learn, you get better, and
failing forward.
grow. You fail forward. Yeah. If you fail, you don't learn anything. You do the same thing over again. Then you are failing. But if you fail and learn, no one got to the top of this game by not screwing up. But they learned from it and they did better next time, or they learned from other people's failures in the first place. So it's good to study from others so you can avoid the mistakes and repeating those as well. But naturally, you're going to. Like, I'm afraid to make a call because what if I screw it up, or what if they hang up on me, or if they say no, or ever. Like, well, then you're never going anywhere. Like, you have to fail to succeed. So I love that mindset shift. I think it's so big. So Joe?
Yeah. So I think, on that, oh man, I got 2 ones. I'm going to start here though. Okay. Delegate. That was my Lord, when I finally swallowed the pride pill of that, it's okay that a producer works my referral, right? Or whatever that was it. That's when really, you want to talk about growth, when you're able to, and I say this a lot to agents, is like, maybe you should be doing it, but it doesn't mean you have to do all of it, right? And just find the right people. And I think, Pops touched on it a little bit earlier, is that we waited too long for that. We waited too long to switch over Alex for our, even just having somebody that does all the service and handles all that, to where I can just focus on my strengths over here. Not to say, I started in customer service, not to say that maybe that necessarily wasn't a strength of mine, but really being able to tap into, what was the direction we're trying to go. And I couldn't tap into half the directions I was trying to go because I didn't have any people. I was not delegating it. I didn't, they're not going to work it like me. So, I could, and it would save me some time, but it's only going to take me like 10, 15 minutes. Well, when you do that every day over a month, how much could you have accomplished, right? So I definitely say that is, man, when we really started to delegate, and even from day one, me and Pops really setting the expectation, like what are our roles, right? What are the things we're going to delegate to each other if it hits my desk, even though I can do it or Dad can do it? Like, why, like, to delegate that, where it's like, hey, focus over here. And I think, especially as newer age, and I still struggle with it. And I know that there's agents probably watching this call that it's like, man, I can just do it better though. But then in hindsight, for me, it was, man, we should have been doing this from day one, because how far ahead could Alex be if I had him only being a service manager and now he's running our VA operations, but like, that's just been within the past year. I'm like, dang, if I had done this years ago, like, we could have 100 VAs working for us and a whole model and all this stuff. So, I think delegate. The other thing is set expectations up front. And I just said that word about a minute ago, but it's, really making it very clean cut of just setting that expectation of I love it. Pops actually just started something this morning that we're going to do every single day now, where it's just really setting, because of the team, because of our in-house team. Now, a lot of our model, we'll get back to this on the Q&A, where we are remote everywhere. We got agents all over across the country. We only have 5-6 people here in the office now. You want to talk about celebrate. I had a guy pass his freaking exam today on the first try. I got another guy going through licensing here in the next 2 weeks. We're growing on that side too. But it was setting that expectation up front. And Pops, so he's doing this thing where every morning, and it's only 15 minutes, right? And so anybody that says they can't, it's 15 minutes. I promise you can spare 15 minutes in the morning. If not, get there earlier, and then you'll have 15 minutes. But for us, it's even, what are our expectations of each other as a team in the same office, because we've delegated those roles. What do we expect of each other to get done? And it's the one thing, right? And I'm pretty sure
what's the most important thing you need for me to do for you today.
Right.
Just one thing. So if there's something, what's that one thing? Like, I'm going to get that done today, because you're saying that's the most important thing. And it just can be one thing. And so each day really kind of taking that priority. Really, I have two priorities. I have those. So from the people around the circle, what are those? And then me determining what's the one thing I need to get done today, for
Correct.
myself.
Yep.
And those are the priorities that we start from versus I hope I get to this stuff, but really trying to say, okay, what do you need for me to get done for you today? And then in doing that so that your people will trust you to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I'm making those determinations of what I think is important or not important, and they just see stuff not getting done. But that's because I didn't know how important it was to them that it get done today. And so hopefully with this, again, with this added communication and them saying, hey, this is the most important thing, then we can get it done. And they can ask me at the end of the day. It's like, hey, did you get this done? So
Right.
yeah.
I'll highlight. Okay, so that's perfect though, because communication, even though you're sitting in the same office, right?
Yeah, we're literally.
You can walk in and just go to work. It's what we're supposed to do. We've been doing it. We're not doing too bad, right? And so just going and you get in the motion and you're just doing your thing. But like where could we be? Where even today we all had a couple things on each other's list where it's like, hey, I really, and that's just something that I don't think we put enough emphasis on. Hey, you could team chat it or say it in passing or whatever, but I think that also we're not prioritizing our team members, right? To where, hey, you know what, that is priority because we're sitting here saying that none of this is possible without you. And I really think it's the smallest things that can just go in passing. We just come in, we just do our thing. It's what we've been doing, right? It's working and this, and this, but really, there can be people on your team that are potentially sitting on an island, right? That are looking for that, or man, I want to say this, but I know like Joe's busy or whatever it is. It's like, dude, I'm never too busy for my team. I'm never too busy for my people. And so that, I think, on top of that, with the delegation piece, I mean, why delegate if we're not going to really set, hey, look, this is what we're expecting from it. So those are definitely, really good point there, Pops, too.